Good evening, everyone. Before we begin this evening's presentation, please note the following, which applies to those of you joining us online. There are some features that are enabled for you today. For most of you, these options will appear on the bottom of your screen, although that may differ based on how you're viewing this meeting.
Good evening, all. Before we begin this evening's presentation, please note the following, which applies to those joining us online. Some of these features that are enabled for you today, for most of you, these options will appear on the bottom of your screen, although that may differ based on how you are viewing this meeting.
There are two features that we would like to share with you this evening. I'll begin by explaining them in English, and then I'll explain them in French.
I'm going to repeat those in French in an instant.
The first, simultaneous translation or interpretation, excuse me. Parts of this evening's meetings will be in French, others in English. You have the option to listen to the meeting in both official languages as the information is being presented. If you prefer to hear everything in English, thanks to our live interpreters, that is possible. Click on the interpretation button that should appear on the bottom of your screen and select English. While you're in that menu, you may also wish to select Mute Original Audio to ensure that the information is clear and easy to hear. Again, for most of you, this option will appear on the bottom of your screen, but that can certainly be a bit different depending on what browser you're using. The second feature is submitting a question. At any time during this evening's meeting, you're welcome to submit questions in writing. To do so, click on the Q&A button that appears on your screen and simply type your question. General questions will be posed to the board and guests during the Q&A period towards the end of the meeting. And finally, note that a recording of this evening's meeting will be available on the website in the next couple of days.
We'd like to share with you two features. The first, simultaneous interpretation. Parts of this evening's meeting will be in French, others in English. You have the option to listen to the meeting in both official languages as the information is being presented. If you prefer to hear everything in English, thanks to our live interpreters, that is possible. Click on the interpretation button that appears on your screen and select English. While you're in that menu, you may also wish to select Mute Original Audio to ensure that the information is clear and easy to hear. Again, for most of you, this option will appear on the bottom of your screen, although that may differ based on how you are viewing this meetings. The second feature is submitting a question. At any time during the meeting, you're welcome to submit questions in writing. To do so, click on the Q&A button and type in your questions. General questions will be posed to the board and guests during the Q&A period toward the end of the meeting. And finally, note that a recording of today's webcast will be available on the plan's website in the coming days. Thank you very much. Have a good meeting.
Bonsoir, good evening, and welcome to our second annual information meeting. My name is Tom Maston, and I'm the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the CBE Pension Plan. We are very pleased that you have been able to join us this evening. Joining me this evening are my fellow trustees and observers. At this time, there are 10 of us who have been appointed to the Board of Trustees, including the following trustees. Matt Hiltz, Vice Chair of the CBE Board of Trustees, who is the legal counsel and chief negotiator for the New Brunswick Nurses Union. Paula Doucette, President of the New Brunswick Nurses Union and CBE Pension Plan member. Mark Gaudette, retired Assistant Deputy Minister, responsible for strategic services for the GNB Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. Richard Luton, Managing Director, Capital Markets, Treasury Division of the Government of New Brunswick. Ben Mersrow, Assistant Deputy Minister of Corporate Services with the Department of Social Development. Susie Pruhl-Daig, President of the New Brunswick Union. Marilyn Quinn, retired registered nurse, past President of the New Brunswick Nurses Union and CBE Pension Plan member. Maria Richard, First Vice President of the New Brunswick Nurses Union and CBE Pension Plan member. Lisa Waters, Director of the Specialized Healthcare Component and member of the Board of Directors for the New Brunswick Union. And there are two observers, Catherine Little, Hospital Part 3 representative for the New Brunswick Nurses Union Board of Directors and CBE Pension Plan member. Lee Sprague, Executive Director of the New Brunswick Union. And finally, as mentioned earlier, my name is Tom Maston. I'm the Chair of the Board of Trustees. I'm a chartered accountant and I worked for several years as a senior healthcare executive. We also have two presenters joining us this evening who will share important plan updates with you shortly. Yves Plourde is an actuary and partner with the plan's independent actuarial firm, TELUS Health. And Sean Hewitt, President and CEO of Vescor Inc., the plan's investment manager and administration services provider. Sean joined Vescor in April of this year upon the retirement of John Sinclair, Vescor's former president and CEO. Over 10 years ago, the CBE converted to a shared risk plan. The purpose of this conversion was simple and has remained consistent: to provide a secure and sustainable pension plan, providing lifetime pensions to all members. We are very proud of the outcomes of the plan to date and where it stands today, which our presenters will share with you in further detail this evening. So without further ado, I'm pleased to welcome Yves Plourde, who will speak to the plan's most recent actuarial valuation report. This report analyzes the funding health of the plan, and the information provided from that report guides our decisions, such as if cost of living adjustments can be provided, and if so, how much. This analysis is done annually. Yves will present in both official languages. A quick reminder that simultaneous interpretation is available this evening. Please select your language of choice if you would like to use these services. Welcome, Yves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make my presentation in French first, and I'll conclude in English. So next slide, please. So I'm Yves Plourde. I'm actuary with TELUS Health. We were formerly LifeWorks and Monroe Chapelle before that. So the name of the company has changed over the past few years, but we're still the same team here in Fredericton, providing the same quality of services to your Board of Trustees. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight to present to you the results of the most recent actuarial valuation of the shared risk plan for certain bargaining employees of New Brunswick hospitals as at December 31st, 2023. I'll start with a short summary of the membership in the plan to review the evolution of the assets of the plan and its actuarial position and the plan liabilities over the years, not only at December 31st, 2023, but throughout the recent past. And I'm going to show you how the plan's financial position was affected by the recent bout of inflation that we have all experienced. I will then review the risk management test results that we track annually and provide information concerning the cost of living adjustment that was awarded by the Board of Trustees for January 1st, 2025. And I'll end my presentation with a talk about traffic lights. Stay tuned on more for that. But first, let's start with the participation and membership in a plan. You can see that the number of active members represented by the tall green bars has grown significantly over the last 3 years to exceed 11,700 active participants on December 31st, 2023. This growth in active members is of great benefit to the plan and will assist in providing additional security to your plan benefits and therefore reduce overall risk for all the members. An increase in active membership also increases the ability to continuously provide COLA, cost of living, to all plan members. The number of retirees, represented by the purple bars, continues to grow at a steady speed, in which we do expect will continue for the foreseeable future. The plan has a total of just under 4,500 retirees at December 31st, 2023. On the asset side, the pension fund, depicted by the blue bars, has increased significantly over the years from about $1.8 billion at the end of 2015 to over $3 billion as of December 31st, 2023. After a difficult year in 2022 for pension plan investments in general, the year 2023 provided a good increase in the level of the pension fund assets with net investment income of more than $230 million, which allowed the pension fund to breach the $3 billion level for the first time in its history. Sean from Vescor will provide more information about the performance in his remarks later. Now, in order to be able to determine the financial position of the plan, we need to compare the assets of the plan to its liabilities. The plan's liability is a representation of how much money we believe should be in the fund at the time of the valuation in order to pay all the benefits that members have accrued up to the date of the valuation. The liability is represented by the orange bars. In order to calculate the liability, we need to make many assumptions about the future. One of those assumptions is the discount rate that we use to put a value on your pension plan liability. The discount rate represents a very conservative estimate of expected investment returns for the future. And it is used to discount today's date all expected future benefit payments from the pension plan. We use a discount rate of 5% per annum for the plan. This assumption is very conservative because we actually believe that the fund can be expected to earn in excess of 7% per annum over the long term, being a full 2% per annum above the discount rate. Using such a conservative discount rate provides us with the expectation that more often than not, the plan's investment could generate extra funds compared to our discount rate assumption, which will continue to assist in securing the benefits under the plan and providing future consistent COLA clauses. Over the last 8 years, the plan's liability went from just over $1.7 billion at the end of 2015 to over $2.76 billion December 31st, 2023. You will notice that the assets in the plan increased slightly faster than the plan's liability over the period spanning from 2015 to 2021. This is partly due to the fact that we use a conservative discount rate in the calculation of the liability. This allowed us to build a surplus in the plan, which was able to absorb the downturn of the year 2022, and at the same time, continue to allow the trustees again this year to provide you with a significant amount of COLA, as we will see later. To ultimately determine the financial position of the plan, the trustees add to the assets the amounts of contributions made to the plan in excess of the cost of the accruing benefits over the next 15 years. On December 31st, 2023, these excess contributions for the 15 years following the valuation date represent an amount of $612 million, which when added to the assets gives us a total adjusted asset value of over $3.65 billion. When you divide these assets by the liability, you obtain a funded ratio called the open group funded ratio. The funded ratio is the measure in the following graphic, is the measure that is used by the trustees to determine how much they will have available to spend on providing cost of living adjustment to plan members and to providing other benefit improvements in accordance with the terms of the funding policy for the plan. It also determines if contributions have to be adjusted up or down, or in very rare circumstances, if benefits have to be reduced. I'll take you through the evolution of the funded ratio over the past few years. As you can see in this graphic, over the years, this ratio has remained well above 100%. This means that we expect that there is enough assets in the plan, including excess contributions, to provide for all the benefits payable for the lifetime of active members and retirees. The funded ratio has in fact increased from a level of 122.7% at the end of 2015 to 139.1% at December 31st, 2021. This period includes, among other events, the start of the pandemic, which occurred in March 2020. The financial markets at the time retreated in an unprecedented manner, hitting a low at about the end of March 2020, which did reduce the funded ratio for the plan to about 120.3% at March 31st, 2020. However, the markets rebounded almost as quickly as they had come down. And by December 31st, 2020, the funded ratio of the plan had gone back to 124.6% at the level it had been just 2 years prior. In 2021, the plan experienced a significant increase in its funded ratio due to favorable investment returns in that year and a significant influx of new members to the plan to reach the unprecedented funded level of 139.1%. This brings us to the year 2022, and as you are aware, the year 2022 was an unsettled period for markets. We continue to endure the effects of a pandemic, which was still causing major disruption in some parts of the world, and we experienced serious disruptions to supply chains. Price of oil and energy prices remained at very elevated levels in 2022, and to complicate matters, Russia invaded Ukraine, happened in 2022. All of these caused significant uncertainty in the market, and very importantly, caused significant inflation levels not seen in many decades, accompanied by an unprecedented increases in interest rates enacted by various central banks in order to fight that inflation. Nonetheless, the plan was still able to finish the year with a funded level well in excess of 130%, that is 133.6%. Now, for the year 2023, you can see that at December 31st, 2023, the funded ratio has moved basically sideways from its level at December 31st, 2022. Over 2023, even with investment return well above our discount rate of 5%, the plan's funded ratio basically did not change from the prior year, reducing slightly to 132.2%. I want to reassure you that this continues to be a very healthy financial position by all measures. But I do want to address why the funded ratio has stagnated over the last 2 years. Other than the immediate impact of investment returns on the funded ratio, other main reason why the plan did not improve its funded status over the last 2 years is directly related to the fact that unprecedented amounts of cost of living adjustments have been tied to inflation, have been provided to active and retired members. In fact, over the last 2 years, the plan has provided total COLA of over 11.15%. This represents more adjustments to the cost of living over the past 2 years than the sum of all adjustments provided in the prior 6 years. It's interesting to note from the graph here that during the period 2015 to 2021, a period during which inflation was kept in check, the plan was able, as a general trajectory, to continuously improve its financial position. That period was used to prepare for more tumultuous times, so like in the 22 and 2023. And so while inflation has spiked over the last 2 years, the good work of the 6 to 8 years previous has allowed the trustees to prioritize providing elevated cost of living adjustments to plan members over the last 2 years. This caused the plan's financial status to pause its increasing trajectory during those 2 years, while elevated cost of living adjustments were provided. It now appears that the battle against inflation is starting to bear fruit. Every month, Statistics Canada publishes its inflation statistic. And for every month in 2024 so far, the annual inflation rate has been at below 3%, which we had not seen since the beginning of 2021. In fact, its last published figures for the month of September 2024 basically showed an inflation of 1.6%, below the target set rate by the Bank of Canada of 2%. This is the first time in over 3.5 years that inflation is below the target rate. I certainly hope that this return to normalcy will continue. Normalcy will continue, at least from an inflation perspective. Let's take our binoculars now and look towards the future. Let's assume we have binoculars that look into the future. In actuarial world, that's called a stochastic analysis. We conduct one of these every year for the trustees. So this analysis reveals that we can expect that the increasing trajectory of the funded ratio for the plan will start again and continue in the future, as it has been the case for 2015 to 2021. Now that this fight against inflation appears to be, for the most part, in the rearview mirror. We can expect that there will be bumps on the road, as we expected, but rest assured that with a funded ratio above 130% as a starting point from today, your plan continues to maintain a significant buffer above 100%, and therefore is ready to face the various market uncertainties and volatility that may lie ahead, just like it has faced the threat of inflation over the last 2 to 3 years. I'll now switch to English.
Let's now take a look at certain risk management tests conducted annually. The first risk management test involves calculating the probability that base benefits under the plan will not have to be reduced over the next 20 years. On that basis, the plan scores a 99.15%, which means that in more than 99.15% of the studied cases, the base benefits payable from the plan remain intact. This score exceeds the minimum of 97.5% mandated by pension law and gives us comfort in knowing that the security of the base benefit is very high. Because the plan meets this test, it can continue to provide cost of living adjustments to all members and retirees. The second risk management test involves the calculation of the average cost of living increases that can be expected to be provided under the plan over the next 20 years. This calculation results in expected average cost of living adjustments of 100% of inflation over the next 20 years. The result of this second test is outstanding and indicates that the full cost of living adjustments are expected to continue for the future. This brings me to the topic of inflation and cost of living adjustments for this year. Your plan has been designed to provide protection against inflation through the award of cost of living adjustments, or COLAs. Inflation is measured by the increase in the Consumer Price Index, as reported by Statistics Canada every month. For the 12-month period ending June 30th, 2024, so taking into account the period from July 2023 to June 2024, the average increase in the Consumer Price Index, or inflation in Canada, was 3.11%. This is a significant reduction from inflation levels seen during the previous 2 years of over 5.5% in each year. Over that period, and for every single year since conversion to a shared risk plan, your plan has been able to provide COLAs that fully match inflation in Canada. Given the continued healthy financial position of the plan at the beginning of 2024, with a funded ratio of over 132%, the trustees were able to provide a COLA of 3.11%, which will be effective on January 1st, 2025. This COLA, again, covers the full inflation in Canada. It is provided at a cost of $82.5 million. It is a great achievement by the plan to have been in a position to provide COLAs which have equaled full inflation since its conversion to a shared risk plan, especially during times when inflation has spiked to levels not seen in decades. And the plan did so while maintaining its funded level over 130%. The time has now come to talk about traffic lights. The board is introducing a system of traffic lights this year. No, this is not a new investment or joint venture with a traffic light company, but rather a new communication tool that will be used by the board. The traffic light was identified as a quick and easy way to transmit information about the financial status of the pension plan and its ability to provide COLA. It is expected to be used in the future in most communication material issued by the trustees, such as newsletters, annual reports, and during the annual information meeting. The traffic light will change color depending on the level of the open group funded ratio of the plan. In turn, the level of the funded ratio provides you with an indication of the ability of the plan to provide COLA. Therefore, we hope that you will be in a position to appreciate how healthy the plan is and its ability to provide COLA based on the color of the traffic light that will be revealed each year when actuarial valuation results are available. Let's start with the green light. A green light indicates that the funded ratio for the plan exceeds 120%. A funded ratio of over 120% indicates that the plan is in a healthy financial position and that it can provide COLA for that year. As you can appreciate, with a funded ratio that is currently at a level of 132.2%, the plan is currently showing a green light, is in a very healthy financial position, and can provide COLA. A yellow light would start to be shown on communication material when the plan's funded ratio falls between 105 and 120%. This yellow light would mean that COLA can be granted most of the time, but that it may be less than full inflation. That means that there will also be years while under a yellow light, COLA may not be provided. Finally, a red light would mean that the plan's funded ratio has fallen below 105%. This means that the plan is not able to award COLA while the funded ratio is at that level. So COLA would stop. Furthermore, there is a heightened risk of increases in contributions, as those would appear when and if the plan's funded ratio falls below 100% for 2 years in a row. And finally, under a red light, the possibility of a reduction in benefits will be a concern. The trustees certainly hope that they will never have to show the plan membership a red light. But the communication tool allows for it if the financial situation deteriorates to that point. The probability of this scenario happening is very low. If we now look back at the years since 2015, if the trustees had initiated this communication tool at that time, we can confirm that the plan has consistently been in a green light status because the funded ratio has never dropped below 120%. This means that the plan has remained in a healthy financial position over the last decade with an ability to provide consistent and predictable COLA throughout these years. In conclusion, I can confirm that your plan is in a healthy financial position, is fully expected to continue to provide the benefits that it was designed to provide, even in the face of high inflation, high interest rates, and everlasting financial market uncertainty. I hope that you found the information provided interesting and useful, and that it provided you with a better understanding of how resilient your plan is. I also hope that the new traffic light communication tool will provide all members with a quick way to determine the financial health of the plan and its ability to continue to provide COLA. I thank you for attending this information session, and I'll remain available for the question period. Tom, over to you.
Thank you, Eve. Next, we will have a presentation from Vescor, the plan's chosen investment manager and administrative services provider. Providing us an update in these key areas is Vescor's new president and chief executive officer, Sean Hewitt. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Tom, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for making me feel welcome as a newcomer to this beautiful province. I now have about 7 months under my belt here as the president and CEO of Vescor, and about 8 months as a resident of New Brunswick. And while I'm relatively new to Vescor, I've known of it for quite some time through the pension and investment industry. Vescor is known to be an industry leader and a strong advocate for best practices in corporate governance and risk management. Vescor continues to be supported by a very strong leadership within our pension administration, investment, and corporate services teams. It's an honor for me to present to you today as a representative of your pension administrator and investment manager. Moving on to the next slide, a little bit about who we are. Today we'll focus on 2 areas of the organization, our investment management and pension plan administration services. We are an organization made up of approximately 150 professionals located here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. We are an integrated investment management, pension, and benefits administration organization. Importantly, we are the largest investment manager in Atlantic Canada and one of the largest nationwide. We were created in 2016 by the Legislative Assembly of New Brunswick under the Vescor Act. We are jointly owned by the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan and the New Brunswick Teachers Pension Plan. Importantly, we are independent. We are independent of government, but we are regulated and supervised as an investment fund manager and portfolio manager by the New Brunswick Financial and Consumer Services Commission. We remain committed to serving our clients and their members. Across all plans, Vescor had approximately 21 billion under management at the end of 2023, of which the CBE pension plan is an important part of, with assets totaling over 3 billion at the end of 2023. We serve on behalf of our clients over 100,000 pension plan members. 20,000 or so of those members are represented by the CBE pension plan, including the members on today. 4 numbers that I'll walk through. I've already mentioned the $3 billion plan assets, which makes up about 15% of the total AUM at Vescor. Over the past 12 years, plan's assets have grown by nearly $2 billion. We've been able to enjoy very strong returns over the past 10 years, both while Vescor has managed the plan and prior to Vescor managing the plan. And over the last 10 years, the plan has earned an investment return of 6.85%. And importantly, as Eve mentioned, that rate is able to support benefit payments because it exceeds the assumed discount rate. The management expense ratio is the cost of us providing investment management services to your plan. Unlike for-profit investment firms and banks who charge significantly more, our ratio is one of the most cost-effective in Canada. That's what makes the Vescor model different. We are a non-for-profit company, and we are focused on delivering value for our clients. Vescor's management expense ratio for 2023, as mentioned, is approximately 0.14%. That translates for every $100 invested, that's 14 cents. Our costs represent 14 cents. For every $100 invested, $99.86 remains in the plan. In national benchmarking, this is approximately 0.2% or 20 basis points per year lower than the median Canadian pension plan of similar size. This is significant. Based on $3 billion in assets, 0.2% means more than $6 million is saved in lower annual fees for the CBE. Diving a little bit deeper into the investment returns, I have a snapshot here through to June 30th, 2024. Year to date, through June 30th of this year, we have earned 4.3% investment return, 4.38% investment return, which is modestly above the investment benchmark return over that period. Over the 1 year period ending June 30th, we have earned over 9%, 9.42%. The last 12 months have been characterized by quite high returns driven largely from strong global equity markets. Over longer periods, we have earned an annualized return of 6.69% over the last 4 year period and 6.14% since CBE began working with Vescor as their investment manager in 2016. It's important to note that the investment performance of our team has meaningfully outperformed both the investment benchmark and the discount rate. The investment approach is actively managed by the investment team here in Fredericton under the leadership of our Chief Investment Officer, John Spinney. Now, moving on our focus to plan administration services, there are 5 key areas. The pension administration is the day-to-day administration of the plan. We provide members with formal pension estimates, retirement options. We would set you up on retirement. So that team takes care of that aspect. Our member services team provides support to active, deferred, and retired members, surviving spouses, and beneficiaries. This team you can reach 5 days a week through the day for all the questions that you may have. They also conduct member presentations and work very closely with employers. Our communications team manages the plan's website on behalf of the board and works with the board to create newsletters and organize this meeting. Our board support services offers governance support and best practice expertise to the Board of Trustees. And last but not least, corporate services accounts for our accounting function, auditing, human resources, and much more. Some figures on the administration of the plan specific to CBE. Over 4,700 member contacts from this plan alone in 2023 that came into our member services team and does each year, which includes emails, phone calls, and in-person meetings, all serviced here in New Brunswick. Though of those 4,700 member and employer contacts, that translated into roughly 1,900 applications in 2023. That would include official pension estimates, retirements, purchases of service, terminations, and others. Now, importantly, if you did interact with a member of our member services team, you would have received a short survey. Our member satisfaction scores remain quite high, with a 95% satisfaction rate, which we are pleased to report. And importantly, our cost per member for our administration services remain very competitive. Based on national peer benchmarking that we do, BestScore's pension administration services rank the second lowest amongst our peer group at $108 per member. If you would like more information on this CBE, including planning for retirement resources, additional information about the investments, BestScore's approach, please visit the plan websites and BestScore's website. For example, we have a responsible investment report, and we'll be launching our third annual responsible investment report in the coming weeks. So please keep an eye out on the website for that. And in summary, just to recap, we are a central resource for plan members and their employers. We strive to be a trusted advisor to our board of trustees, to your board of trustees, and we have a wealth of resources available. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our member services team are available Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. to 4:30. And you can see the number and the email is listed on the slide. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has, and we'll turn it over to you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We recognize that some of the information shared this evening is complex, but we hope you have gained a better understanding of where the plan stands today. If there are three things I hope you take away from this evening, they would be: 1, the plan is well funded and in a healthy position. 2, we have been in a position to award cost of living adjustments to members annually, and that's to both active and retirement members, helping your future or current pensions keep up with inflation. The next adjustment announced today will be applied as of January 1, 2025. This is an extremely positive outcome, especially when considering that some peer plans have no cost of living adjustments, and in some cases are not fully funded and remain at risk. And 3, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact BestScore for answers. Their member services team is a resource that is available to you 5 days per week. Call, email, or visit them. And as Sean mentioned, you can also visit the plan's website for more information. Before moving on to the question period, I would like to take a moment to thank those of you who took the time to complete the survey we distributed to all members in August of this year. As a board, it was very important for us to gauge the understanding and satisfaction of our plan members. Ultimately, we want to ensure that you understand the basics of the plan, know what you can expect, and where you can go to access information about your own CBE pension. Thanks to the responses received from you, we obtained very helpful insights. Though we are still analyzing the results, in the coming weeks and months, we will share the action items that we will implement based upon your responses. A few examples of the information you shared with us. 1, we still have some work to do to simplify the language used in our communication materials. We hear you. Pensions are complex, and it's a tough balancing act to simplify the information while maintaining accuracy. That said, we recognize that we can do more. 2, there are a lot of questions around plan provisions, including the early retirement reduction factors and how your pension keeps up with inflation. And 3, the level of trust in the CBE pension plan could be improved. We look forward to sharing more with you soon. And now to our question period. Our question period will be moderated by Susie Poole-Daig, a long-standing trustee of the board.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde.
I'm happy to be with you. I'm Susie Poole-Daig.
If you have any questions for our Board of Trustees or the presenters, please submit your questions by clicking on the Ask a Question button that appears on your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can this evening. In addition, several members have submitted questions online prior to today's meeting, and we'll be answering as many questions as possible through this question and answer session. So the first question I will send to Tom, and it is, are there any retirees on the board?
Yes, we do have at least one retiree on the board, Marilyn Quinn. I think Marilyn's the only one at the moment. Yes, I'm getting nods.
All right, thanks, Tom. Next question I'll direct to Kent Fries, the manager of the member services team. Where can I find out what my pension will be at retirement, and what age can I retire without a reduction?
Well, thank you for the question. So to find out information about your pension, there are several ways that you can do that. We do send out annual statements to all plan members, usually in the summer months. On the second page of that statement, there is a tool that you can use with the online calculator you have on your website at cbenb.ca. There are newsletters that get sent out as well twice a year, as mentioned earlier. And we do have a great member services team that Sean has touched on. As far as the earliest retirement date without a reduction, that would be age 65 for your particular pension plan.
All right, thanks, Kent. Next question I'll direct to Sean. Do you have a green investment strategy?
Excellent question. We do have a very strong responsible investment approach. We have long-standing responsible investment guidelines that's been a part of our investment strategy for many years. And starting in 2022, we began issuing our responsible investment report. And so we've released two annually, and we'll be releasing our third later this year. And what it shows is analysis consistent with the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. And in that, you can see Vestcor's total carbon footprint, which has been trending down over time. And so I would invite the member to look at the resources that we have available, and we'd be happy to point the member to the Responsible Investment Report when the third annual Responsible Investment Report when it's issued later this year.
Thanks, Sean. Next question I'll direct to Eve. Eve, if I understand correctly, my pension is well and secure for now, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can confirm that, the pension plan every year we do, like I mentioned during my presentation, stochastic analysis on the probability of having to reduce benefits, and that test is really, really good. In fact, is significantly above the minimum required under the Pension Benefits Act, and this plan is always well performed from that perspective. So with the funded ratio that we have now, I can confirm that your pension is secure for now. Absolutely, very secure.
All right, thanks, Eve. We currently have no other questions, so I certainly encourage you to ask your question. We had committed to at least an hour. So if you do have a question, again, please click on the button on your screen and we'll answer as many as we can. And oh, I have a question here. Why does my pension change once that CPP kicks in? And I'll send that one to Kent.
Thanks. That's a great question. So the idea of integration is that anybody who retires prior to age 65, you get actually a higher pension amount until 65, where you can get an unreduced CPP. So whether you start CPP early or not, you'll still get that higher pension amount until age 65. We call that integration. Other people use the term bridging. So basically, it kind of bridges the gap of your income up until 65 when you do get an unreduced CPP at that time.
I'm just waiting to see if there are any other questions, if somebody can send me a sign. I guess that's it. So I certainly want to thank everyone for joining, and I'll hand it back to Tom. Thanks.
Thank you, Susie. So this concludes our meeting for this evening. A reminder that a recording will be available on the plan's website in the coming days. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to submit them to us. If you scan the QR code on the screen, you can contact Bescor's member services team directly, who are happy to answer your questions you may have about your pension, current or future. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, thank you for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful evening.